All right, folks. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm gonna pop over here so you all can see me. Hello, and welcome back to Adobe Live. Thank you all for sticking around and hanging out. For those of you who are in the live chat this morning, it is great to see you. My name is VooDoo Val, and I am going to be your host this morning for another Photoshop typography challenge. We are celebrating Women's Day here. We are celebrating the 36 days of type here, and I'm very excited for what we have planned today. Welcome in Frank and Valder, Ted, Sam, Biola, Afrosia, General Kenobi. Hello there. It is good to see all of you folks. Sounds good on your end. Sound is working. Okay, cool. Awesome. We are good to go. I'm going to pop over here and show you folks kind of what we are going to be working with today. But quick reminder, if you would like to join in the challenges with me, if you'd like to download the starter file and get going on this challenge with me today and with everybody who is joining today, please scroll down to the description below. Check out those downloadable links and hop in. So much excitement. It's good to see all you folks. All right, let's pop over here. So this is the starter file for today's challenge. Photoshop typography challenge, and it says design a typographic illustration or illusion by using textures, transform tools, and gradients. So we've been kind of playing around during this challenge set with creating depth with color and value and gradients and making flat elements pop out into 3D space. And today is going to be sort of a similar challenge, but it's really going to be about problem solving, about organizing small details in your mind, about organizing layers so that you can achieve the desired effect. And kind of, I suppose, taking some of the simpler details we've been exploring and extending them a little bit farther to create something very intricate, but with simple tasks, I suppose. So this is what we're going to do. In this file, you will find, I've got our colors in here. We've been, using these really cool colors, which I've had a lot of fun with. I don't know about you folks, but I've really enjoyed using this color palette. It's a favorite of mine. And we've got a folder here called rings. Now I'm going to go ahead and hide my info here. And I'm going to keep my colors arranged here where I can see them because I'm going to be using them. I'm going to press F to enter into the second view of Photoshop so that I have my black background. By the way, quick tip for those of you who have been maybe exploring the Photoshop views for the first time, something you can do is you can actually right click out here beyond the border of your canvas. And you can change this. I usually have it set to black, but you can change it to dark gray, medium gray, light gray, and you can also select a custom color. So if I want this to be purple, I can select purple, and I can have a purple canvas if I want to. It's really up to you what you would like to do. I prefer black, but if you want to really get in here and customize your Photoshop workspace down to the color of the empty space behind or around your canvas, you can totally do that. Great color palette, very unlike my usual from Tim Loomis. Well, I'm happy that you were enjoying it, and I hope that everyone else is kind of digging into it. I've also seen some folks in the Discord kind of choose their own color palettes for these, and I'm loving all of your submissions, so well done. Now, in our rings folder, we have these rings, and what I've done is first of all, they are the letter O. I've created this with the letter O because we're working with type. And I have kind of named these based on their position. And I've put them in a very particular order for a reason, which I'm going to show you in a moment. But first off, if you would like to create your own design here, you're more than welcome to. You don't even have to use the letter O. You can use something different if you like. And the way that I set this up for you is I hit T on my keyboard to access my type tool. I just tapped here, and maybe for a little sort of experiment here, we can use the letter J, which I will use a capital J, and I'll make sure it's capital. I want to make sure capital J. All right. And I'm going to make sure that this is kind of a green color, just something that will show up here. And I will Control T or Command T if you're using a Mac, and I will just make it larger. And you can choose any letter you want. I know that we have a specific set letter for today's 36 days of type, and you can choose that letter if you want, or whatever letter you like. And you can experiment with an arrangement of this letter, however you see fit. Preferably for this challenge, something that overlaps with itself. So if I wanted to do something like this, for example, we could put this here, and if I change this to another color just for the purpose of this, we could experiment here with this kind of overlapping. Could duplicate that J and bring it up here. And perhaps I would like to do some kind of masking here so that it looks as if the kind of tail of this J goes behind the top of this J. Something like that. Keep in mind we're going to be overlapping letters, and this is all I've done really, is just make very large letters of the same kind and arrange them in an interesting manner for the purpose of our project. But I'm going to go ahead and delete these and continue to use our rings. Or I'm calling them rings, but again, it's the letter O, and I'm using the font Montserrat because I felt that for these challenges is a very bold, very clean, very strong font for these. So this is what we're gonna do. We are going to make it look as if these O's are kind of pulled into 3D space, but we're gonna kind of tap into our problem-solving brains here, and we're going to also make them look like they are interconnected, overlapping, and intertwining with one another. And this is a really fun exercise. So with my brush, I'm gonna hit B on my keyboard. I'm going to make sure that my mode is set to dissolve. We've been having a lot of fun with that, kind of using like our very own noise texture brush. And I am going to create a layer in between all of these, all of my O's here. So I'm going to Control Shift in or Command Shift in if you're using a Mac. And I'm just going to select all these and just put a layer in between them all, okay? And then I am going to make sure that they are all set to clipping masks. A lot of what we're going to do today is going to make you best friends with clipping masks. It's one of my most favorite techniques to utilize in Photoshop. I'm sure you folks have seen why, but if you are new, if you were just joining the challenges for the first time, and if you've never used clipping masks, you're gonna see why they are so wonderful and useful. So, how do we make all of these look like they are overlapping and interconnecting? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start adding some shadow at very key points on all of these letters in order to create or begin to create this overlapping method. So I'm going to hit B, make sure I have my brush again, make sure caps lock is off. So if you, just a quick tip, first of all, I'm going to select a hard round pressure brush. Just a quick tip, if you are using your brush and you don't see the shape of your brush whenever you are on your brush tool, maybe you see something like this, just a little cursor like that, is because you have caps locks on. So if you turn off caps, you will be able to see the shape of your brush. So the first thing I'm going to do, as I said, is add shadow, and we're going to add these in very specific places. So notice I have all of these organized top left, top right, and bottom left, which means that they are stacked like this. I'll make a new layer and change this to normal just so that I can number these. And you might like to number the rings or the O's in your file like this as well, because it might actually help you to keep this organized in your mind. So this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, and this is number 4. That's how I have them arranged. So number 1 is going to be the topmost circle or O, and number 4 is actually going to be the bottom most for in our arrangement. That's why I've organized them that way. So I'm going to leave those notes there just so we can keep that in mind. Now on our first clipping mask, what we are going to do, actually, we're going to move to the second clipping mask because this is the topmost layer here. So we're going to add a shadow to the O that is underneath it. I'm going to make sure I'm selected on dissolve again, and I'm going to hold Alt and select this darker blue color here. And all I'm going to do is come under here and I'm going to tap right quick. Boom. And now suddenly that kind of looks like it's underneath, doesn't it? It looks like you can kind of start to visualize this, and I've just clicked with my mouse, okay? And then we're gonna move to the next one here, the bottom right, and right here where this kind of connects in to this layer here, we're going to tap again. So start to bring it underneath, okay? And now we're gonna move to the next layer or clipping mask here, and here where these connect, we're going to tap as well. Boom. And then on the topmost clipping mask right here where these ones connect, we will do another nice tap. And this is going to seem a little odd because now here we have this O that is on top, but we can solve that with a mask, okay? And we're gonna mask in kind of an interesting way. We're not going to freeform paint on our mask, which we have been doing. We're actually going to use the shape that is on another layer to form the selection of our mask. So we're gonna mask this top left here so that we can start to see this bottom left look as if it's overlapping on the top. So we're going to come over here and holding Control, I'm going to click the visual icon here of the bottom left. And what that is going to do is it's going to select for me automatically everything that is on that layer. And then I'm going to come up here to my top left, and we're going to apply a mask. So I didn't have to come in here and freehand trace this or decide with my lasso tool what I want to mask. We're just going to select it so it's perfect, and now we're going to alter this just slightly, because if I mask it right now, number one, it's going to only show me what's within the selection, and it's also going to kind of mask over here on other parts of that ring. So we do have to edit it a little bit. So we are going to come in, you could use a lasso tool for this, or you could use your rectangular marquee tool. But what I'm going to do is I am going to hold Alt, which subtracts from my current selection. And I'm just going to select all of this away. All right, so I just want this part, and you could get really close in here, but since there's nothing there really, it doesn't interfere with the rest of the overlapping shapes, this is fine. And the last thing we're going to do before we apply this mask is we're going to right click our selection and hit select inverse, because if we apply the mask just with this small piece, it's going to hide everything but what's within it. But if we select inverse, it's going to hide only what is in the space, and everything, as you can see, our selection has changed. Everything that's out here is going to remain visible. So we're going to go ahead and hit this button down here at the bottom. It's our little rectangle with our black dot in it, and we're going to hit mask. Boom. So now we have this cool beginning of this kind of swirl of interconnecting circles or O's, right? Which is already looking pretty darn cool. And it's a very clean selection here, as I said, because we used the selection from that other layer. So it's incredibly accurate. You don't have to have a stylus in order to get in and do these small details. And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some light. Okay, so we've added shadow. This is kind of another study in light and value and all of those things. So we're going to come in here and make sure, because now we're going to switch over to kind of painting on another area, and we were just using a mask. So make sure that your mask layer is not selected anymore, and go ahead and click on the icon for the layer where you can see your O. And I'll press B on my keyboard. Actually, we're going to I suppose it doesn't matter because we are going to work on our clipping mask layer. But that's still a good tip to remember. If you're working with masks and then you're going to start working on that layer, make sure you're no longer selected on the actual mask of that layer. So we're going to snag our light color here. So I'm going to hold Alt and grab that bright color. And then here on all of our rings where part of the O sort of overlaps over the shadow, we're going to add a spot of light. So I'm going to go ahead and click, boom, click in some places, add some light there. We'll switch to our next clipping mask. And then right here over the top where we had our shadow, we'll add some more light, switch to our next clipping mask. So you're kind of doing, if you wanted to use O's for this, the reason why I chose that letter is because it's a very simple letter, a very simple shape, which allows for very easy maneuvering with this because we're going to be keeping track of a lot of different parts of this project. But if you choose to use another letter, all you're doing is making sure that there is that there is light to cast the shadow you added. Okay, keep that in mind. And then we'll come down here to this other portion here, and because that's nice and masked, we can add the light there and it shows up exactly how we want. All right, so now we have this kind of interconnecting pattern and design going on the outside. But what about these overlapping portions on the inside? Okay, so we're going to come back up to our topmost layer. All right, and one thing that you can do, because right here, this is where things get very detailed and where you really have to think about what you're doing. This is also a lesson in being very purposeful with the light and the color that you're placing, and it can be really easy to kind of lose track of what exactly you're doing here. So if you need to, you can come in and just on that layer you can just highlight so that you can see exactly where something is placed. But what we're going to do is, if I highlight this just to look, is first of all we are going to mask because we need to place this ring underneath one of these, okay, because we're going to really start to interlock it just like we did here. So if I kind of come through here and look at where everything is, we do have this ring already underneath, and the same is true for all of these. There is some overlap already happening for us here, as you can see, but what we want to do is this topmost ring, we need to bring it underneath something, and our bottommost ring, we need to bring it up above something, so they all really look like they're connected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I realize that I want my top ring to go underneath this third ring here. So I am going to come over and I'm just going to find the proper ring. Boom. You can also hold Control and simply tap the ring that you're looking for, and it will auto select it over here in your layers panel. So I'll just tap this one and I know that I'm on the right one here, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the other one. Is I am going to, with this third ring selected, I'm going to come up here to our first ring and hold Control and click so it selects for me. All right, and then what I'm going to do is come down here and I'm going to do the same thing we did before. Is I am going to sort of unselect a portion of it. Now this one is a little trickier because I might have to get a little bit closer in here to our ring. But what I can do is I could use a stylus, but for those of you who don't have a stylus, is you could use the pen tool to create a selection. That is also a way that you could do this. So actually let's just do it with the pen tool so that you can see how accurate you can get with that. So if I hit P on my keyboard, I'm also going to kind of peek at time over here. If I hit P on my keyboard, up here at the top before I begin to use my pen tool, you can see it's set to shape. I could do path if I wanted to, but I'm going to leave mine at shape, and I'm just going to, real quick, I'm going to click on the very edge of this here, add my little piece, and I'm going to click up here, and I'm just going to drag this really nice curve, just like that, boom. And then I'm going to angle this, holding Alt, I'm going to angle this over here, and click. And then I am going to place a point over this way on the very edge, and I'm going to just kind of bring this out like so, and kind of get the nicest selection I can. And then I will grab my little armature over here with Alt and select, and then I will hold Control and kind of resituate this however I see fit. Let me see if I can click that, and then I can move it however I want. I can also come over here and kind of move this armature the way I want. And I've got this nice shape. And what I will do is I will just, this is kind of a personal way that I approach this, is I'll just hide that, but I will hold Control and select that. So now I have a selection of it, which is perfect. And then I can come down here to my, my ring, and with the selection tool, I can left click there, or right click, excuse me, select inverse, okay? And then on my first ring, I can actually, because I've already added a mask here. So what I could do, in fact, is, let's see, hold on. I'm actually going to go back to before I did the select inverse and clicking on my mask. For that, I'm going to go ahead and use my brush, not on dissolve because we want a solid thing here. And with black, I can come in and kind of paint that out like that. So I've like removed that portion of that top ring. So now it goes underneath. So if I decide that I'm going to add some color to this, I'll Control D to deselect. And I think I'm going to need to clean that up a little bit because you see I did it fairly quickly, so it needs a little bit of love there. But now on the actual clipping mask layer, if I come in here with some shadow, some of my dark blue here, and I decide that I'm going to clipping mask, oops, make sure it's still on dissolve, I can come in here and tap, and I can now show that this is interconnected underneath. So it goes over and under. If I want to grab some of my light here, I can bring some of this light over. So now all of this really looks like it's bright and it's going underneath these two, like so. I could grab some of my colors from in between, and maybe I'll put some of that blue right there. Maybe I'll put some of that blue right here, and I can go all around all of my pieces and do the same thing with all of this. You can kind of see, I don't think that I'm going to have time to do every single ring here because we've got a couple of minutes left, but you can see how I can take these colors, I can take these values and use masks to start to combine them in a way that makes it look like they are all intertwined, which is a lot of fun. And you don't have to do this with flat images as well. So I'm going to kind of hide my rings here, and I'm actually going to bring in something from one of our previous challenges. I'll hide our colors because I can do this in a much more simple way with some of our more 3D elements we've made. So we played with rings earlier in our challenge set, and I'm just going to drag these in here, and we made 3D shapes out of flat images. So if I wanted to, I could come in like so, and I could drag in these nifty rings that I created here, and I could make them the same size, drag them in like that. Maybe I'll put them kind of catty corner to each other, and I could intertwine them like this. Let's go ahead and select all of these, and we'll center this like so. And maybe I want to do the same thing here. So maybe I'll select this this top ring, hold Control and select from the bottom ring, and I will come in with, let's see, with my lasso tool, and I will just, actually, yeah, I want to make sure that this is unselected because I don't want to overlap both sides there. I will right click, select inverse, and then I'll go ahead and mask. And now they're interconnected. Very, very easy. I could add even some shadow the same way I did there and kind of make this illusion, this trippy illusion type, which is really a lot of fun. So I hope that you folks have enjoyed what I have done today. Just a quick recap here and a reminder to please feel free to post your work into the Discord so I can see it. come to the end of these sets, I'm going to go through and do a whole showcase on stream of all of the wonderful things you've done, and I'd love to be able to highlight your work. So please post it in the Discord, but also please post it onto social media with the 36 days of type hashtag, so that we can all see it for 36 days of type. But recap real quick. We've kind of created this spiral of rings. We've arranged the layers so that they are, kind of arranged from top down to bottom. And we've used masks to kind of make them look like they're interconnected, and explored our colors and values, which I have in here for you as well, to really kind of make it pop. So this has been super fun. Thank you all so much for joining us. I do have to take off because I don't want to get the band hammer cutting off the end of the stream here, but this has been a joy and a pleasure. I've had so much fun with these challenges. I can't wait to see what all of you create with these skills that we've been going over, and I will see you again tomorrow morning for another Photoshop typography challenge, which I think is going to be even more fun than today was. So thank you all again, and I will see you next time. Adios, everyone.